Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2022 horror film The Rise of the Beast. The film is directed by Jack Ayers and it stars Sarah T. Cohen, Sean Altman and Andrew Rolfe. Right, the film focuses on, there's this company that essentially experiments on animals. And there is a group of animal activists who essentially break into an underground base type thing that experiments on animals, and they are then confronted with one of the experiments, which is a huge, vicious ape, gorilla. It is then that proceeds to set about killing everybody in its path, and everybody's basically got to charge him out and stay alive. Okay, that's my attempt at a synopsis for this film. What are my thoughts on The Rise of the Beast? Well, unfortunately, guys, straight off the bat, this isn't a great film. This is another one of the Scott Jeffrey mass-produced B movies, UK-based B movies. Now, I review a lot of the Scott Jeffrey films on this channel. A lot of them are, at best, like middling. The majority of them are, below average, and, that's me being complimentary. Some of them, a small handful of the Scott Jeffrey produced films, do surprise you occasionally. I've seen a couple, certainly this year, more recently, The Killing Tree, the ridiculous, Christmas horror film, that was not very good, but really highly entertaining and amusing, because it kind of was self-aware of what it was. And I always find these Scott Jeffrey productions, if they take themselves too seriously, I can't, because the budgets are so low, generally speaking, you can't take them seriously sometimes. Okay, the elephant in the room here, or should I say the gorilla in the room, is the effects. You may have seen or the trailer at the beginning, a bit of the trailer clip I showed at the beginning, and maybe throughout this review you'll see it as well, bits and pieces. It looks terrible. It really does not do the film any favours at all, the effects for this ape gorilla. It looks like a really bad PlayStation 3 graphic for this ape. It just doesn't look good at all, and I personally would suggest they try and stick to practical effects, unless the practical effects are going to be more expensive than the CGI they're putting in, but the CGI, I think, absolutely harms this film because it doesn't look believable at all. There's no presence, there's no fear factor, because as soon as you see it, you don't believe it. So where's the fear in this film? Where's the tension? They try and bring some more in a sense of these activists that kind of get kidnapped at one part in the film by these people doing the experiments. And one of them in particular, they kind of experiment on her. So she you can see her throughout the film. I hesitate to say mutating because she doesn't really, not really. But she's kind of evolving into one of these apes. She starts displaying animalistic behaviours and so on and so forth. Now, that was a fairly smart idea that I think they probably should have expanded on, because I would have much rather have seen that storyline than this terrible CGI ape on the screen. Because every time that was on the screen, I completely was elevated out of this film because it looked ridiculously bad. So I think they probably should have expanded on the whole experimenting on humans, turning them into animals, hoping to sell it all to the military sort of thing. That storyline they probably should have focused on a little bit more. Beyond that, it was pretty ridiculous. The film is full of so many things that scream out low budget. There's a scene in the film where there's a scuffle between one of the activists and one of the military types. He pushes the activist against the wall and the wall wobbles. I mean, it was like a set from Doctor Who from the 1980s or the 1970s. Again, it just completely takes you out of the film. But they choose to leave it in, that sort of thing. It's little things that build up that just kind of take you out of the experience. And, you know, I'm not a snob. I don't mind watching low-budget films. I watch a lot of them for this channel. And some of them, like I say, they can be completely self-aware of what they are, but it's still, if they've got a tight script, some clever directing and some committed performances, you can still usually get a decent experience here. And I think the only thing you can really commend this film on is some of the performances. Now, a lot of the people that you see in this film are like regulars that you see in the Scott Jeffrey films. They obviously kind of move from one production to the next sort of thing, many of the same actors. So many of the faces you'll recognise if you're used to watching like a Scott Jeffrey movie, produced movie. And while I think some of them aren't great, the performances of like the fringe characters, the central performances are all what you would describe as solid. But there's a lot here it's one of those films that you look at and you're just like, why did that character do that? There's a scene at the beginning when a scientist, he hears growling behind these metal doors. He's safe, the metal doors are closed, but he still decides to go in to check, even though he's just radioed and asked for some backup. Why did he do that? He's not a soldier. He was just a doctor or a scientist. And lo and behold, who does he run into? A giant ape that, you know, beats him to death. Excuse me. Cough still there. There's other things that it tries to get you to believe that one of the activists has been working at this company that does these experimentations for 5 years in a fairly top job by the looks of it, where in actual fact he runs his own activist group. And then the film later on tries to make out that this company knew all along and they were just kind of feeding him little snippets of information. What, for 5 years? What was the point of that? What was the aim of that? For both of them, it's taken them 5 years to either side to even do anything. And again, it's one of those productions where you're watching it and you're confused. I know this is a UK-based production. Many of the actors have got either UK accents or faking American accents, many of them. So it's confused. Where is this film based? Is it based in the UK? Is it meant to be based in America? Or do they want us to believe it's based somewhere else? It never really, and you get this a lot again in like the Scott Jeffrey productions. You're confused as to where the film is based, so you don't ever really feel grounded when you're watching it because you don't really know. Okay, where's the film based? Give us a clue at least. And then sometimes in some of the Scott Jeffrey productions they tell you where it's based and you know it's not. So because of just things the characters are saying. So, unfortunately, I can't recommend this one, guys. Like I say, I much prefer these sort of productions when they don't take themselves too seriously and they've got the tongue firmly stuck in their cheek with films like The Mutation and The Killing Tree and things like that. I get much more enjoyment out of watching films like that than this, where it takes itself far too seriously with god-awful effects. That is just not particularly interesting to watch. So unfortunately, guys, this is one to avoid unless you are a die-hard fan of these type of movies. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.